We're ready. All right, everyone. Good morning. It is 9:35 a.m. On November 29th, 2018 for the Helm Dev call. Just as a note, this meeting is now recording, so don't say anything you want to be put up on the internet. So we're going to start off today. Is there any announcements that we need to talk about before going into discussion?
I have one. I'll write it in the doc. Started a weekly repo call. So trying to tackle all the changes for Helm 3, Helm push, Helm login type of stuff. So that's every Wednesday at 8 a.m. until we're done figuring it out. Pacific time.
All right. Thanks, Josh. Any other announcements? Nope. Alrighty. So, last, I think it was 2 weeks ago. So we canceled last week's meeting because it was November 22nd, American Thanksgiving, and then so November 15th we talked about a couple of other things. So one of the things that we discussed was potentially skipping stand-ups and just writing them all out instead of doing the actual or doing stand-ups, just to skip and go to the discussion. So I think that's might be experimenting with that today. So is there anything from anyone's stand-ups that want to necessarily talk about before we go straight into discussion items, or just go right into it? All right. So why don't we go straight into discussion? Adam, do you want to talk about Helm 3, or does anyone want to give a quick talk about Helm 3 and how that's going along?
Yeah, sure. First off, while I'm getting set up here, has there been any updates on the repo side?
Yeah, so yesterday there seemed to be kind of a consensus. Please, I put it in the mailing list too, but the way that we're thinking about referencing versions, instead of passing like helm install -- version, we're thinking about putting that version on the chart reference or the URL, so it's more similar to Docker.
Yeah.
So.
I think the basics, the thing we came to was, let's do it like Docker. So if you're doing like a tag, the tag, you're going to do a SHA reference, at the hash ID, those kinds of things, because if you're storing it in a container registry, then you've got hash IDs, things like that. So we talked about that stuff. We focused on the user experience mostly yesterday.
Okay, and how are we looking on timeline?
So one of the things that I'm personally pushing for is that it's built in a way that if it's not ready, we can layer it in Helm 3.1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. So it can be an additional feature add later rather than being blocking on us.
Yeah, it may be the case that push and login commands aren't in 3.0, but that we just have the UX change that makes it work kind of like Docker, and then, like Matt said, layered in.
Okay, so should not expect it for KubeCon.
No, 100% zero.
Okay.
No.
100% zero?
That's the new zero.
Okay. Then what I've been working on is a lot of the requirements handling cleanup, how we merge arbitrary data, trying to consolidate that and move that into one place, because it's going to change now, because as we're processing through the tree, we're going to process it multiple times as opposed to just one blanket at the beginning. So all that had to be rewritten. So that's what I've been working on. And that's a prerequisite for adding the Lua stuff to the execution engine. So I think that's the only updates I have.
for 3.
Great, thank you. So while we're on the discussion of future work as well, why don't we go into the discussion item about Helm 212 and just talk about that for a minute. I brought this discussion item up, and basically what I wanted to do is give a status update on what's going on in Helm 212, or at least what's the release status for us cutting a 212. So the milestone right now, what we currently have is just one pull request sitting out there. I think that's the last one that's in the list. And that one has to do with a feature flag that's getting added, potentially added to Helm upgrade, where if you create new resources and the Helm release, but the Helm release fails, then those newly created resources are destroyed if you enable this feature flag. So then you can do a Helm upgrade in the future, because that was one blocking edge case that someone was having. Multiple people were having. So there's that PR that's proposed up there. So I'm thinking it just needs a couple of more reviews. And Taylor Thomas, who's not here on the call, who also was interested in potentially doing some review work for Helm 212. So him and I will likely go through that if nobody else wants to take a look at that. But we'll hopefully get to it by sometime next week, and then we can start cutting the release within the next week or so. So there's that.
Matt, what's the name of the flag that's being added?
Oh, let me actually look it up.
That's okay.
I can give it to you after the call, so then we're not sitting here for...
I just wanted to put the number that...
Okay. I will put it up in chat probably while another discussion is ongoing. Okay. So, Henry, you added this discussion item. Is there a plan for Helm contributors and maintainers for a social get-together at KubeCon? Butcher or anyone else, did we plan on having a get-together, or it's just kind of like, it's always been ad hoc, hasn't it, at KubeCons?
Yeah, we've usually done it in a kind of ad hoc way in the past. I know we have some dedicated Helm sessions, but I don't think we have a dedicated, anything else dedicated for that.
Yeah, nothing formal from the CNCF side. So I think it would just be kind of like how we did it with KubeCon Copenhagen, where it was just like a little Helm flag and we all went along.
Okay, well, I think it's a good idea for us to get together and, as they're quite new players, and say, I promise I'll buy the first round of drinks. So that's my contribution to the social meeting. So.
Yeah, for sure. And then as well, I know for the community at large as well, there's also the CNCF Meet the Maintainers, and there's time slots for those available as well. So there's aside from just core maintainers getting along and having a social gathering, there's also the CNCF Meet the Maintainers, and then there's also at the Microsoft booth there will be a bunch of us all over and hanging around at KubeCon in general.
Well, once we're there, let's just try and pick an evening and where it seems to suit most people, and be just great to go out and socialize and get to know each other better.
One additional question to that. Is there a contributor type session as well? Is there a dev session? Or I know there's some SIG sessions around Helm, but is there any contributor sessions on the Monday?
So the it's the Kubernetes contributor summit, and Helm is not part of Kubernetes, and so you're not going to see it having some Monday sessions. I think it's important because this is Cloud Native Con as well, and so projects like Prometheus and all the projects have stuff going on. But Helm is a project parallel to Kubernetes, so there is no Kubernetes time or Helm time in the Kubernetes contributor summit, because it's just focused on Kubernetes itself. The sessions we have are an intro, and if you generally attend this call, you don't need to go to the intro, because it is going to be targeted at people who are new to Helm. That's generally how the intro sessions go. There is the Helm deep dive, which I think Matt, Butcher, and Adam are doing, which is going to dive into Helm 3. It's about 35 minutes long. That's the only real guaranteed time we have. Anything else we have will be meeting and off hours.
Okay.
And to give the obligatory plug, we are hosting pre-day stuff at the Microsoft Reactor, which will include some Helm stuff, which means if you want to send people there to do intro to Helm stuff or chat with us or something like that, that's cool. For people like you, Martin, if you want to show up and help us do the workshop, that would be welcome as well. But we've got parallel Helm, Draft and Brigade, and CNAB sessions going that day.
And when is that, Matt?
I'll grab a link and drop that in. That's that Monday of the Contributor Summit.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, I'll be floating around. So look, we'll meet you as you go along anyway. Coffee, like I swear I won't grow my hair between now and then, so I'll still look the same. Probably get more like Matt Farina more and more, or does he get more like me actually? This beard. So.
Sorry, just looking at the notes here. So there's fixing bugs. Oh, am I looking at the right list? Yeah, I am. So Farina's asking them in. Farina, do you want to talk about fixing bugs in V2 and V3? And then maybe system-wide plugins?
Sure. So we've been fixing bugs in Helm V2, but Helm V3 is going. And what's our philosophy? So that way we don't fix something in Helm V2 and then leave it in Helm V3. So when we launch that, it's back. Right? How did we want to approach this kind of situation, especially since many of the fixes probably at this point can't even be cherry picked over? I mean, some can, but a whole bunch of them can't. How did we want to approach this kind of philosophically to make sure that something doesn't get dropped as we fix it to come back in 3?
So what we've set, or what we've not stated before, but things that we've talked about before, discussed about this kind of thing before was if it's a Helm 2 bug that we know for sure will only be a Helm 2 bug, then we've talked about, okay, this is just a one-off. We'll just go ahead and merge this, and it's a bug fix. If it's a feature and it's being proposed to Helm 2, then we've talked about if it's just a Helm 2 feature specifically to that, then we're saying, okay, we'll merge that. So anything that doesn't happen to affect Helm 3, then we've basically considered merging that.
But if it affects both,
but it affects both, then what we've talked about is reaching out to the actual contributor who is working on that piece of code, and then mention to them that, hey, Helm 3 is kind of like diverged into a state where it can't necessarily be merged into Helm 2, and then we can't port it over to Helm 3 at this point, at least not easily. So what we've asked contributors is gone back to them and asked them, if you're interested in getting this into Helm 2, then you can go ahead and make the PR for that and go ahead and we'll go and merge that. But if you want it in Helm 3 as a new feature,
I'm talking about bug fixes.
Or
I'm talking just about bug fixes, right? Just bug fixes. So if they're not going to write it for Helm 3, what do we do? Like, what's our plan?
I think
I think there isn't a blanket answer for this. It depends on what the bug is, and right now it's still an early stage where it's not totally clear like if a bug is going to affect Helm 3 or not. Certain ones that are, I've gone ahead and ported it over that I've been aware of, but I think it's just going to be some diligence on the maintainers to know that will this need to be applied when reviewing for Helm 2.
I suppose you have to look at the fact that until you get a stable Helm V3, and once that's stable, maybe some of us work on it and we say, right, here's the list of bugs that were fixed. They were fixed after the cut was taken for V3, and just go down through them and see, right, do they still make sense? I.e., is that code still there? And if they are, just put them over.
Yeah, we'll have to figure it because we've already done the fork. So just thinking aloud, because I ran across one the other day that was like that, which is what caused me to wonder the question. what do we do? And I don't remember what it was now because I've actually carried this one for like 4 weeks, this topic. But there was one that I ran across like this that was in Helm v3, but the PR was against Helm v2. And I think it needed to be modified. I wasn't sure what the plan was to make sure that it didn't get dropped.
Yeah, at least for right now, just ping me
Okay.
on that, and then we can kind of assess. And then as soon as we get a few like that, maybe we can figure out a plan for it.
Okay. We'll just keep that in mind. Since we've got 9 minutes left, I can go on to my next one, which was, what was it anyway? Oh, system-wide plugins. There's a link for it. So there is a situation where, because we've been doing plugin stuff, was that the folks at SUSE want system-wide plugins because of environments where you can't install plugins.
So is this just looking at a different path?
This is having an alternative path as well for system-wide plugins that are not user plugins. So they're there for anybody.
Okay, yeah, there was another request for supporting like XDG directories, and using that standard, it has a default for system directories, so we might be able to adopt something like that as well.
Yeah.
What has a default? Sorry, what has a default?
XDG. I'll post a link to the standard.
Okay.
Oh, that's the thing that's in the thing.
XDG. Yeah. So the pull request they submitted won't work. I mean, quite frankly, it hard codes Linux specific paths, but it gets the idea moving. So.
Yeah, I have this as an item for Helm 3. It's on the project board.
All right. Oh, it is? System plugins?
Not system plugins, but switching to like an XDG based configuration. Which supports system based configuration.
Okay. I'll read up on that. Those are my things. That's it.
All right. And then the last thing was from Henry, which was given the increasing agenda length, if we could stick to a 30-minute call, maybe should we skip the stand-up section? Alternatively, do we need an hour-long call? And I did add a note on there as well that we did talk about it at the CNCF Helm cartographers mailing list. I don't think that one's public, is it?
No.
That one's just against maintainers. But there were some ideas on there, and one of them was trying out just skipping stand-ups entirely and just writing them out in the notes. How do we feel about going that route, or are there any alternative options?
I kind of like that route because I think a lot of times the stand-up it's not something that's requiring a discussion. It's just like sometimes it's like I wasn't able to do anything this week, and then it's like, okay, well, it's great to hear your voice, but I think if we can all just put it in the doc, and then if something is discussion, just bring it up.
Yeah, I think the historical analysis always was for stand-ups was that it was always kind of like a tool to, if you needed help for the week, or if you were having trouble figuring out some kind of design, then the stand-up was really valuable for that, and especially for newer contributors. Adam?
Right, and doing a stand-up where we go around, it allows everybody to speak up, even the people that don't talk a whole lot. And then that could encourage them to speak up and ask questions if they do.
I think maybe if we just
getting people engaged.
I agree with that. I think maybe if it's just like we limit, like just say it needs to be like 30 seconds or less. We can't go dive into discussions during the.
We need like a gong.
Yeah.
Time's up.
So, I mean, I was just looking back. Like the reason that I grabbed 2 items to add to this was I went to past weeks where we just ran out of time to get to discussion topics. and they were problems that I had, but I didn't put them into my stand-up to discuss them then, because that's when I was just talking about what I accomplished and what I'm going to do the next week, right? I mean, if it's somebody needs to talk about a problem, doesn't that go into the discussion topics anyway? And I know there's other things that we skip because we've run out of time and we've never come back to it. So, right, we've got like, grab more topics. We quite frankly just haven't had the time to discuss what's been going on, because this is a small call today, and there's 11 of us here, right? This is not like back when Deas was doing Helm and it was a small team and you had weekly stand-ups. It's now kind of evolved beyond that. And if we do stand-ups for everybody here, we're talking 15 minutes of just talking about what I did last week and what I'm doing next week.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm just saying, like, that's the reason that we did the stand-ups. This call was very much a way to engage the community. It wasn't so much originally designed for making architecture decisions or design decisions. It was more an outreach to get people engaged. And the thought was that those discussion topics, if there was anything that required some time, then a breakout meeting would happen with those that were interested in it. So I don't know if we just have to be more diligent about discussion topics or presenting your topic, and then if it's something quick, we just talk about it like, hey, I want you to be aware of this. If it's a design decision that has to be made, that's going to be tough with a big call anyway, with a list of discussion topics. So it might be better to say, hey, this is what I want to discuss. Does anybody want to discuss this? Let's figure out a time that we can.
So I agree with that, but I think when it's when we're telling people come to this call and ask us your questions, then they're here for that time, and that's the time that they've.
Yeah, right. And so that's what I'm saying is a priority is engaging with people, not so much hashing out stuff that we want to discuss with each other.
So I guess there's two different.
We need time for both, I think. So
yeah,
that's
a problem.
We have a whole bunch of people in this meeting who have attended at least 2 or 3 Helm stand-ups but aren't maintainers. It would be good if any of you have advice for us on what you get out of this meeting and why you've shown up more than once.
I guess that means me.
So I'll speak. I put this is Henry. I put this topic on. I'm sorry, I'm on a bad line here, but I raised it because, as someone said, I got in that decision there. How as a community should we do this, or how should we approach that? Or like the question just now about what are you doing about V3 bugs? Great question. That sort of question. So that's what I come to the call for, that to help me be more productive within the community and make sure I'm doing the right thing.
Steph, you also wanted to talk?
Yes, but everyone erupted in laughter around me, so I had to run away. I'm at the office today. No, I like to come to these. Well, partially after meeting all of you guys at Helm Summit, and I was working as an engineer here at SUSE, I wanted to get involved because I really wanted to get involved, like hands-on with the community. But for me now, at least since going into management, I actually come here to keep up with what you guys are up to, because it really does help us when it comes to like our own upgrades. But also, yeah, I'm just interested. I do secretly want to be more involved if I had more time. So I love hearing your ideas.
So are you seeing this more? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Martin, before I jump in.
No. Finish out your point, because otherwise you won't be able to.
Okay. So I was asking, so Steph, are you more interested in like the high level talking about the discussion of the overall project, or are you interested in like the technical discussions that are happening on like the discussion topics? Or I'm just kind of curious which seems more relevant. Is it kind of like a high level, this is what's happening in the project, or is it more like a bug triaging or talking about those discussion items?
yeah, like I'm interested in the technical level discussions. Also, partly because I'm trying to foster more of that community in SUSE. So yeah, that's just a personal interest of mine, and it does help to track the overall status. That's pretty easy to do, just popping in out of Slack or back when these were status meetings. 10 minutes. If the status was limited to 10 minutes, then that works out well.
Okay, that's good feedback. And then Martin, quickly, I know it's 10:01, but you just wanted to make sure that you wanted to say before finishing up.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good points here. And maybe if we'll say the stand up at the start could be shortened down slightly, and basically putting the longer points into the doc so that there's more time for, as you say, people to come in and out and make points. And so I think all of it applies really. Like, so I'm easy either way.
Okay. Where would be the best place to start having this conversation? Because I know we're over time. It sounds like there are some other discussions. So it sounds like it's not just the proposal of deleting the stand-up entirely, but there are actually some questions about whether the discussion topics and all that, or high-level project discussion is a little bit more of an interesting topic.
Yeah, it's also something we can just try. Right now with like KubeCon coming up and a lot of this Helm 3 stuff coming to a head, there's a lot more discussion topics. So it even could be something that we just try temporarily, since we have so much more to discuss than we have time for.
I think also for things that, for example, like the repo stuff, coming in here and trying to and expecting to have an answer, I think is fruitless. So if you know that it's going to be a breakout, just in the discussion or stand up, say, we're going to have a meeting. There's no point to talk about it here. So that we're not just, I don't know.
Yeah, some kind of like, not aggressive, but some kind of like sloughing off bigger discussion topics maybe to extra or to other meetings might be a little bit more helpful in the future. So we're kind of well over time. We still have assignments to do for this coming up week. Does anyone want to take moderator for this next week? Or I guess we're at KubeCon. No.
That's one more week. I can do moderator.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Notes? I'll take notes. And issue triage.
I'll help out, but I can't add any tags or anything. So,
Okay. We will. Yeah, thanks, Martin. I think what we'll try and do is we'll see as well if any other core maintainers also want to help out, especially since, especially as we're trying to get onto the ramping up and all that. So we can definitely help out. Do you think you would need some help with the triaging?
Yeah, possibly. I might just ping people, or if that's okay.
Oh, yeah. I guess you don't really do you have access to setting labels on issues at this point, right?
No, I don't. So
Okay.
I'm not sure how I could be as useful as a chocolate teapot. I'm not really sure. But what I normally do is, if I've been kind of busy for the last 3 weeks or so, but I normally put in comments and stuff like that. But I could be sending it off the ship the wrong way. So yeah. But.
All right. That's all for this week. Thanks everyone for coming along.
Bye, guys.
Bye.